I mean, those same people put Oklahoma State in the playoff. So, like, I mean, I always get smoke from people who are saying, you talk about rankings in September. I love talking about rankings, all right? If you don't like talking about rankings, this is not going to be the show for you. I love talking about rankings at any point. It's one of my favorite segments to do. But to your point, like, Cincinnati versus Army, that's a show your cards game, man. Like, Army has to win it to have any chance of us even talking about them at all the remainder of this season. Cincy has to win it for the Americans' reputation and for their own. Like, quite honestly, we don't give a damn about you beating up on Austin Peay. Nobody does, right? And Luke Fickell, who has built his program and reputation on being hard-nosed, physical, we play defense, we are going to stack up against the run, and we're not going to let you do that, gets to see what that looks like against West Point. And I've been a Marcus Freeman truther. Like, between Marcus Freeman and Buki, I bought all the stock, right? I believe that Marcus Freeman is the next up-and-coming head coach / defense coordinator. I think he's just waiting on the right move, perhaps even at Ohio State because he used to play there. But Freeman has done nothing but put together outstanding defenses and really been the backbone of that program. This is also a group of folks that, I love this story. Luke Fickell gets his kid into an Iowa State satellite camp that's taking place in Ohio. And he shows up with a couple of his players because he can't bring assistants and whatnot, and they just stand there. He's there as a parent, but they're standing there in Cincy gear, watching the Iowa State guys put the kids through their paces and laying down a marker, going, nope, you're not going to come into Cincinnati. You're not going to come into Ohio and get our kids anymore, Matt Campbell. This is who we are, and I love that. So I'm with you. I'm excited to see what the outcome of that game is, even if I'm not necessarily going to have my eyes on it. I'm interested to see Pittsburgh versus Louisville because I think that Kenny Pickett is the best quarterback nobody's talking about, and he gets an opportunity to show it against a Louisville team that, quite honestly, I thought was going to be 2-0 heading into this game. But Malik Cunningham has passed for over 300 yards on average. Javian Hawkins is still going for over 100 yards on average. They did not look good defensively against Miami. Some of that, I think, is De'Aaron King, who went for over 300 yards. So they've shown that they can run it for 300. They've shown that they can pass it for 300. They get to show whether or not they're a complete football team once again against Florida State, Miami that is. And then an uncharacteristically bad defensive display by Brian Brown and that Louisville defense. Now they get an opportunity to try to correct that against a quarterback that is not similarly talented, but certainly can throw the ball all around the yard and has a true freshman that is out there just catching TD passes like it's his job, all right? So I'm really excited about that one. I also am excited about this Texas Christian game versus Iowa State, but for the opposite reason. This is a nail game for Iowa State. And by that, I mean, if you lose this, that's your coffin nail. That's it. We're not talking about Iowa State as being any good for the rest of the year. You have to win this game. And for Texas Christian, you got to win this game too. But do you have to win it in the way that Iowa State has to? No, because you didn't lose to Louisiana Lafayette. You would have taken that L to SMU. I'm going to say that. And seeing as that game has not been rescheduled just yet, I'd say that Texas Christian is dodging Southern Methodist in a year in which Southern Methodist is once again going to be very good. You're also running out of Matthew Downing. And if Iowa State can't take care of a redshirt sophomore Matthew Downing, Iowa State can't take care of what? Finishing that whole pizza? I mean, like, I don't see Matthew Downing as a threat here. This is a game in which I'm going, Zach Evans needs to get 30 touches, period. Like, I know you want to distribute the ball to Tay Barber, distribute the ball to J.D. Spielman. I get that. But you need to be able to run the ball and play defense. Because if you can keep Brock Purdy off the field, they're not going to be able to stop you from running the ball because that's not what Iowa State is built to do. They're built to stop you from your mid-range game, from your quick game, and from the deep ball. They're not built to just line up and stop a guy like Zach Evans. I also think it could be a Zach Evans coming out party because I also have all the stock in that kid. It's just, can he keep himself together? And so far, he has been able to do that. And then I was looking up and down the roster of games for this weekend. And yes, we keep talking about the SEC. I want to see Kentucky and Auburn. Dell City stand up. You got a dude that I think is a good enough quarterback at Terry Wilson to go get a win against Auburn and Bo Nix. But I'm interested in that Florida and Mississippi game just because I want to see if Lane Kiffin breaks his own rule. Lane Kiffin employed 2 quarterbacks at USC. He got fired that year. Okay? He's thought about doing it this year. because John Rice Plumlee is that good with his legs, and Matt Corral is that good with his arm. Conventional wisdom is you go with the guy that can throw the football, because that's what you need a quarterback to do. You need him to throw the football. But John Rice Plumlee is so fast and so good in the open field that you might want to just get him some looks in there. So I don't know that it's going to be a two-quarterback system, but I could see John Rice Plumlee getting 5 to 7 snaps next to Jerry and Ely and trying to run a little rich rod out there with a little, basketball on grass, little single wing concept. But I think you got to go with the dude that's going to be able to distribute the ball to your playmakers in a game where you need to score points, because we know that Dan Mullen and Kyle Trask are going to put up their share of points. And against Ty Grantham's defense, where he's willing to gamble, that man's going to blitz more often than he's going to stay home. You're going to have shots to really hit guys on hot routes and really pick them apart in places where they just aren't able to get to your quarterback. So I'm interested to see how that goes as well. I wanted to see Sean Robinson in Eli Drinkwitz's offense because I think it can work, but not against Alabama, and on it goes. But, if anything, Texas needs to beat Texas Tech by 20 just so they can keep their reputation and we can keep that OU-Texas game intact. And I'm going to keep my eyes on that. So those are the games that I'm looking forward to. I want to get to this list, though, with the time that we got left, because I always thought that this was interesting when we talk about who's going to get fired first. So I'm going to give you the best odds for who's going to get fired, right? I'm already going to just pad this by saying Lincoln Riley's getting the worst odds to be fired first in the Big 12, 28 to 1. I think that's easy money if you could take that bet, but you can't. Tom Herman's getting 8 to 5. What? I thought Chris Del Conte was like, no, he's gonna be our head coach, and especially in this year, But he turned over both coordinators. He turned over half the staff. He needs to get wins this year. He can't afford to go 8 and 5. And I thought it was poetic that his odds are 8 and 5, right? And then there's Matt Wells, which I didn't think was on the table, at 5 to 2. Neil Brown at 3 and 1, and then Les Miles at 6 to 1. Yo, man, of those 4, who would you put your money on?
I put my money on Les Miles, man.
Chanticleers did it to him, huh?
Man, I do. Hey, let me tell you something. Kansas doesn't like sticking with a head coach for very long. I don't know what it is. But at the 2 or 3 year mark, they just start getting those fire engines turning. And I think Neil Brown is definitely going to be around for a while at West Virginia. I think he's a really good football coach. That team's just not good. I think Matt Wells is going to have a shot or two at Texas Tech because I think they like him a lot. And I would bet that Tom Herman saved his life by landing Quinn Ewers, but that's been a personal take of mine for a while. So if I'm taking anybody in the Big 12 right now, it would have to be Les Miles. That being said, I don't know if anyone's getting cleaned out this year. I think it's probably another year before you see some movement in the Big 12 from a coaching perspective, but that's who I would place my money on if you're forcing me to put some sort of bet down.